Joining me today on NYSE Floor Talk is Faraz Khan. He is MBE, CEO, and partner at SpectrEco, and he's also founder of Seed Ventures. Faraz, fantastic to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having us, Judy.
My pleasure. So now let's start off by talking about SpectrEco. Tell me about the company and the journey and vision driving the company forward.
Before sharing about SpectrEco, I just want to set up a context. So right now, climate-induced disasters, carbon emission, and the transition towards net zero are big challenges across the world, especially for businesses and industries. Just to give you a few facts, $280 trillion of real estate exists. $140 trillion worth of AUMs exist. They all need to move towards a net zero transition. Now, transition is a complicated space. And what SpectrEco does, it has simplified the transition for businesses towards net zero in a simplified manner enabled by technology and data. So that's what SpectrEco does for businesses.
Now, can you speak about the challenges and opportunities market participants are facing around this shift and transition in the investment lifecycle?
Absolutely. So regulations play a very important part. Now, people consider regulatory environments a challenge. Up to, let's say, 20 years ago, the impact, ESG, and sustainability space was led by development sector. But in the past 20 years, the regulatory environment has actually taken over the ESG and sustainability transition space. They work in parallel, but more and more the world is moving towards regulated regimes. To give you an example, 145 jurisdictions in the world are moving towards a regulatory regime. When I say regulatory regime, it basically means you have to report and disclose your sustainability and ESG performance as per the law now, rather than a voluntary disclosure. Europe is leading the way. APAC region is adopting. The rest of the world is adopting in that direction as well. Recently, in the US in itself, SEC has asked the businesses to disclose their Scope 1 and Scope 2. Now, these are huge signals towards a regulated regime. But with this direction comes the challenge of how. How do we need to do this? There's a lot of data. There's a lot of advisory. There are fantastic smart institutions and people who are actually advising the businesses and industries to actually move in that direction. But when it comes to actually creating a transition from an X point to a Y point in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time, that entire transition is, that requires a technology and data platform. And that's what SpectrEco brings to the table for the industries and businesses.
And if we have a crystal ball, tell me, what impact will these trends have in the next decade?
Well, to be honest, Judy, there are a lot of moving parts to this crystal ball and the trends. The biggest trend, of course, is the regulatory regime. That is becoming a norm now, and it's not an anomaly anymore. The other is intergenerational transfer of wealth. So your new investor across the world is more socially conscious. They want impact. They're more shareholder-driven, stakeholder-driven rather than shareholder-driven. And they're creating the right kind of balance. The other trend is that technology and data is enabling decision useful and risk mitigated conduits. And that is going to transform the investment space across the world. At the same time, I think the pressure from the consumer side towards the net zero transition is also increasing, because your consumer, be it of a product or a service or for real estate or an infrastructure, they all are demanding that the right kind of parameters are being used when that real estate is being developed or it's operationalized. So technology, a regulatory environment, climate-induced disasters, intergenerational wealth transfer, All are these trends that would actually culminate in a future which I think is going to be much better than the kind of one that we inherited, unfortunately.
Faraz, it's been wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thank you for having us.